He was standing under a streetlight at the end of the block, perfectly still, facing my house, and he was smiling at me. It was 3 in the morning. I had never seen him before, and over the next 20 minutes, that smile would chase me through every empty street in my neighborhood. I have read, since that night, that other people have seen him too, in other cities, other countries. A tall man, in clothes that do not quite fit, with a smile that is far too wide, who appears on empty streets in the small hours and follows people home. Most of them got away. I need to tell you how. I was 26 and I walked a lot at night. I had insomnia and the streets near my apartment were quiet and safe, and a walk at 2 or 3 in the morning was the only thing that ever made me tired. I had done it 100 times. I was not afraid of the dark. I learned to be. That night was like any other. Cold, still, the streetlights humming, not a soul awake. I had walked maybe a mile when I turned onto a long, empty street, and I saw him, all the way at the far end, standing under the last light. And even from that distance, I could see that he was facing me, and smiling. I almost waved. Some reflex, some assumption that a person standing on a street at night is just another person. But something stopped my hand, because people who are happy to see you do not stand perfectly still, and their smiles do not stay fixed and stretched and unblinking the way his did. I turned and started walking back the way I had come, calmly, casually, the way you do when you are telling yourself there is nothing to be afraid of. And after about 10 steps, some instinct made me glance over my shoulder. And the man was no longer at the end of the street. He was halfway down it. He had not run. I would have heard him run in that silence, but he had crossed half a street in the time it took me to take 10 steps, and he was still facing me, and he was still impossibly smiling. I stopped pretending. I started to walk fast. Every time I looked back, he was closer. Never running, never seeming to hurry, but always closer, as though the distance between us simply meant less to him than it did to me. And his head was tilted now to one side, the way a dog tilts its head. Curious, as if I were something it had not yet decided what to do with. I turned a corner and I ran. Full sprint, lungs burning, down a side street toward the main road, toward anywhere with lights and people. And behind me, I heard him for the first time. Not footsteps, a sound I still cannot describe. Something between a laugh and a word, getting closer, in the dark. I made the mistake of looking back while I ran. He was right behind me, close enough to touch. That smile filling my whole vision, too many teeth, eyes wide and black and delighted. And he was not running. He was gliding, perfectly still from the waist up, while something below carried him along far too fast. There was a house with a porch light on, the only light on the whole street, and I threw myself up the steps and pounded on the door and screamed for them to let me in. And the thing behind me stopped, right at the edge of the light, and it waited. An old woman opened the door. She took one look at my face, and then she looked past me, at the figure standing just beyond her porch light, and her own face went white. She pulled me inside, and she locked the door, and she turned off the porch light, and she said, "Do not look at the windows." We sat in her dark living room, and we did not look at the windows. And for almost an hour we listened to it move around the outside of the house. Slow footsteps on the porch, a long nail dragging across the glass, and every few minutes, very softly, in a voice that was almost human, it would ask to be let in. It used different voices, a child's voice, crying, lost, a man's voice, apologizing, saying he was hurt, that he needed help. It knew, somehow, exactly what would make a person open a door. The old woman held my hand in the dark and did not move, and did not answer. And slowly I understood that she had done this before. Near dawn, it stopped asking. There was a long silence. And then, at the window we were trying not to look at, very slowly, a face pressed against the glass, smiling, watching us in the dark, waiting for one of us to look at it directly. The old woman whispered, do not look. And we did not. When the first gray light came into the sky, it left, not all at once. We heard it move off the porch and across the yard, and we heard that almost laughing sound fade off down the street. And when the sun was fully up, the old woman finally turned on a light and made tea and told me what she knew. She said it had come for her years ago, the same way. A walk at night, a smile at the end of a street, a chase. She had survived the way I had, by accident, by reaching a door in time. And she had stayed in this neighborhood ever since, with her porch light on, because she had learned the one thing about it that mattered. It cannot take you, she said, unless you let it. It cannot run faster than you can reach a door. It cannot come into a home it has not been invited into. And it cannot touch you, no matter how close it gets, unless you do the one thing it spends all night trying to make you do. Look at it, directly, on purpose. That is the trap, she said, the smile. It is so wrong, so impossible, that every person it follows eventually breaks and turns and looks at it head on. And in that instant, when your eyes meet its eyes, if your own face does anything that even resembles a smile, even a flinch, even a grimace of fear, it has you. So you keep your eyes down, she said. You do not look at it. You do not answer it. You walk to a door and you wait for the sun. That is the only rule. And it is the only reason the two of us were sitting there, alive, drinking tea, while the morning came up over a quiet street that had nearly swallowed me whole. I moved away within the month. I do not walk at night anymore, but I still see him, sometimes, at the very edge of things, at the end of a long hallway, across a parking lot at dusk, under a streetlight, far away, facing me, still, smiling, waiting for the night. I forget the rule and look. I have learned that he is patient in a way that nothing human is patient. He does not need to catch you tonight. He has all the nights there are. He only needs you to grow comfortable again, to start walking again, to see him at the end of a street, and think, just for a second, that he might be someone you know. So if you are ever out late, on an empty street, and you see a man standing too still under a distant light, facing you, smiling, do not wave, do not stop, do not whatever you do, walk toward him to see if he is all right. Turn around, walk to light, to people, to a door, and if he follows, and he will, and if he gets close, and he will, and if you hear him just behind you in the dark, asking in a voice you almost recognize to be let in, keep your eyes on the ground. Keep walking. Find a door, and wait for the sun. Because the only thing the smiling man wants, the only thing he has ever wanted, on every empty street, in every quiet town, for longer than anyone has been writing these things down, is for you to turn around, and look him in the eye, and smile back. Do not give it to him. No matter how close he gets, no matter whose voice he uses, no matter how certain you are, in that moment, that turning around is the only way to make the fear stop. Keep your eyes down. Get to the light. And whatever you do, on that long walk home in the dark, do not look at the smiling man.